I will go on to the next speaker, Dr. S Sajikumar, who is the Chairman and Managing Director of Dhathri Ayurveda. Dr. Sajikumar is the Managing Director of Dhathri, and he is one of India's well-known Ayurveda companies. He hails from a family of traditional Ayurvedic practitioners or Vaidyans with a 300-year lineage. He was my senior at the Government Ayurveda College in Trivandrum, and I fondly remember he was not just a scientist, but he was also a good theater artist during that time. So Dr. Saji runs his Ayurvedic hospital networks also in Kerala, including Panchakarma centers as well. He also serves as the chief physician of these Ayurvedic hospitals. He's a very passionate innovator, entrepreneur. He launched the Dhathri branded hair and skincare products in Kerala, which are quite successful. And it also represents a large bucket of healthcare services in Kerala. And he was awarded the Yuva Pradipha, the Best Doctor Award by the Government of Kerala recently. He has been associated with the Confederation of Indian Industries for quite a few years now. And he was a past chairman of the Kerala State Council of the CII. And he is also a member of the Kerala Management Association and the Indian Chamber of Science, Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So Dr. Saji, we are very happy to have you here. A very pleasant face, smiling face always. One of my seniors at the university. Thank you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hari and Dr. Madan Tankavelu and Dr. Majid. Very, very good evening to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to address this webinar. I also thank my fellow panelists and all the participants for your valuable presence. It has been 9 months since the first case of COVID-19 was identified. And when the pandemic will end appears to be a matter of speculation. But one thing is for sure, the reverberations of COVID-19 are so wide and deep that we are talking about recasting the calendar as before COVID and after COVID. Despite the current crisis being a healthcare issue, the healthcare sector has been badly hit with a significant drop in inpatient and outpatient footfall. For the Ayurveda sector, there has been a whole host of challenges. As someone running both a products business and a network of services and being in the organizations, I can produce an exhaustive list. But I believe every challenge is an opportunity. Hence, I would like to talk to you about 3 factors. 1, opportunities for Indian Ayurveda. 2, need for a shared vision for Ayurveda. And strategic areas for large-scale investment. With regarding to opportunities for Indian Ayurveda, never has the Ayurveda industry witnessed so much awareness and demand for its products as it is witnessing now. To quote Vaidya Rajesh Kotecha, Secretary Ministry of Ayush, the Ayurveda industry in India has registered a whopping 50 to 90% growth during the last 4 months. Major manufacturers have achieved big growth in their sales, especially in the category of rasayanas like Chyawanprash. The demand of Chyawanprash alone increased by an incredible 400% in the domestic market. The demand has increased in multifold also for the Ayurveda disinfectants and antibacterial product like even Abarajita Dhuma Churno. And the media is abuzz with stories of zero death in COVID centers that follow Ayurveda treatment protocols. Such overwhelming response to Ayurveda in preventive care and immunity development in the times of the pandemic augurs well for the industry. The projection is that Indian Ayurveda industry can achieve a 4-fold growth, crossing rupees 1 lakh crore mark by 2025. I should mention that another important growth factor is the government support for this factor. So after COVID years, truly present a wonderful opportunity for Ayurveda to grow by leaps and bounds. To give you a background about the Indian Ayurveda industry, there are nearly 400 Ayurveda education institutions. Every year, about 20,000 students graduate from the 5-year degree program BAMS course. We have nearly 8,000 Ayurvedic drug manufacturing units and 5 lakh qualified practitioners. The industry employs nearly 2 million people. The values of exports of medicines as well as herbal extracts close to somewhere around $500 million US. If the projection of a 4-fold increase by 5 years is going to materialize, this can translate to a spurt in employment growth. From 2 million to over 5 million employees, the number of Ayurvedic practitioners can increase from 5 lakhs to 7 lakhs. The worth of medicinal plants cultivation can exceed from rupees 2,500 crores to rupees 11,000 crores. The exports of drugs can swell from around rupees 1,000 crores to somewhere around 7,500 crores. And that of extracts, rupees 2,000 crores to rupees 15,000 crores. All in a matter of the next 5 years. But I think to realize the full potential, we need strong partnerships, a common vision, and a big time investment in those areas in Ayurveda that have immense strategic value. So having talked about the opportunities, let me now delve a little bit on the shared vision. Creating a shared vision for Ayurveda, which is so vast and diversified, is a big challenge. You have many stakeholder groups, healthy people and patients, farmers and traditional knowledge holders, researchers and educators, manufacturers and practitioners, governments and regulators. So the list go on. And as an industry, Ayurveda is distinct, but it is also pervasive. Ayurveda is in yoga, it is in wellness, it is in tourism, it is in food and nutrition, it is in philosophy, it is in healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing, education, productivity, culture and local traditions, in organized sector, unorganized sector, you name it. Creating a common goal and getting all stakeholders to speak a common language is easier said than done. The exercise of creating a collective vision in any arena starts with getting all stakeholders share their individual visions first. I personally think that conviction precedes vision. The conviction in Ayurveda should form the premise for the vision for Ayurveda. I am sure that we all have the conviction that Ayurveda is a gift to the world, a gift to the human mankind. The vision should reflect this conviction. It should be nothing less than globalization of Ayurveda in the truest sense. I would like to inform you that we at CII launched GROW, a vision framework at the Global Ayurveda Summit 2010. The letter G in GROW stands for globalization of Ayurveda. R for responsible business and clinical practices. O for organized approach. And W for wealth sharing with the society at large and the traditional knowledge holders in particular. But globalization of Ayurveda is at the core of the vision. The rest of the factors are the enablers of the vision. By globalization of Ayurveda, what do we mean? It should mean universal health. It should mean making an invaluable contribution to the creation of a global scenario where all people everywhere can access quality health services with the financial protection. Globalization of Ayurveda should mean that it plays a critical role in our efforts in reducing the global maternal mortality ratio, ending preventable deaths of newborns and children, ending epidemics of communicable disease and neglected tropical diseases, and reducing premature mortality from non-communicable diseases. Globalized Ayurveda should mean it becomes a parallel system and not an alternative system of medicine. Ayurveda should be a big industry in many world economies. And our science should be owned by everyone and practiced everywhere. And I think it all should begin here in India. So let me now point out a few strategic areas for investment, which will put Ayurveda in a prime place in the spectrum of health services. Research. Undoubtedly, research and standards top the list, as these two areas are crucial for the promotion of Ayurveda as an evidence-based health science. Today, organizations like WHO accept the Ayurveda combinations for immunity. We need preclinical, clinical studies and documentation with the clinical trial registry India to keep the momentum going. Though we cannot use modern science for researching all aspects of Ayurveda, there are many areas where Ayurveda and modern science can meet. One promising area is reverse pharmacology, in which drug candidates are first identified based on large-scale use in population and then validated in clinical trials. There is also a huge opportunity in carrying out research on pharmacokinetics of Ayurvedic drugs, which is a study of what the body does to a drug with respect to the time course of its absorption, bioavailability, distribution, metabolism, and excretion, and so on. And we can do pharmacodynamics research to understand the biochemical and physiological effects of drugs. Research on manuscripts is another worthy field of research. The National Manuscript Mission has digitized over 2 million manuscripts. At least about 20% of them are about Ayurveda. We are sitting on a gold mine doing hardly anything to unlock the value of manuscripts. Another much awaited area is adding formulations to the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia. We use about 4,000 formulations, but our pharmacopoeia covers not even half of them. One wonders why there's so little progress in this area after so many decades of formalizing Ayurveda as an industry. Another area is regarding standards and protocols. Let me briefly touch upon few basic premises. Like in research, we can never have an entirely modern approach to standards and protocols. To begin with, every patient is an individual in Ayurveda. It rules out the scope for homogenization, the premise on which research in modern medicine is based. Two different worlds. However, there are no bottlenecks in coming up with national guidelines and standard Ayurvedic protocols for the treatment of many common diseases and health conditions. These standards can be determined by Ayurveda physicians involving Ayurveda hospitals. In the case of current pandemic itself, Ayush Ministry has initiated clinical studies and prophylactic studies on various Ayurveda products and medicinal properties like ashwagandha in the context of Ayurvedic interventions in COVID treatment. 2 studies on Chyawanprash and 3 studies on ashwagandha have already been completed, and results have shown that Ayurveda preparations are efficacious to treat asymptomatic and those patients with mild and moderate symptoms. Now, these outputs can form the basis for evolving national guidelines for COVID treatment. There can be standard protocols. Imagine having such guidelines and standards and protocols for commonly treated diseases in mother and child health, dengue fevers or other infectious disease, cancer palliative care, non-communicable disease, cancer palliative care, cardiac care, diabetes management, thyroid and blood pressure management, sports medicine, COPD and asthma, geriatric medicine. Such intellectual efforts can completely transform the industry. And another strategic area for investment is quality testing. Poor product quality owing to contamination often crops up as a reason for banning Ayurvedic products in foreign countries. I think it is largely an infrastructure problem. As I mentioned earlier, there are 8,000 manufacturing units in India, but only about 200 of them are large, and they have about 80% of the market share. They afford to have their own labs to test ingredients and end products against various quality parameters. But what about this 7,800 units? A back of the envelope calculation suggests that they make about 50 lakhs or less in annual turnover. They are micro and small scale industries. They do not have the resources to own a lab of their own. Hence, there is a pressing need to set up testing labs in strategic locations. This could be done by consortium of industries or by government or by public-private partnerships. Let me talk something about cultivation. Lack of raw material is emerging as a major challenge. At present, raw materials like Tinospora cordifolia, ashwagandha, turmeric, garlic, tulsi, which are used in immunity products, are in short supply, owing to heightened demand. Over 75% of the herbs used in the manufacturing of drugs come from the forest. So if we can, actually, there is a scope for medicinal farming. In fact, the central government has recently announced rupees 4,000 crore fund for the promotion of herbal cultivation in India. This is expected to bring about 10 lakh hectares under herbal cultivation in the next 2 years. It is a lifeline for the Ayurveda manufacturers. Initiatives on these lines would certainly yield high returns. Standardization of raw materials too can be taken up because the stability of Ayurvedic medicines depends largely on the purity of the raw materials. And something about academia. Finally, a word on investing in Ayurvedic educational institutions. We have about 400 institutions, but many of them are not well equipped with the labs, libraries, modern classrooms, hospitals, good accommodation. Unless institutional infrastructure is not upgraded and resources do not swell enough to attract quality faculties, we will not be doing enough justice to the thousands of students who step into the portals of Ayurvedic education. There is also an urgent need to upgrade Ayurvedic education. Syllabus should cover subjects like Ayurveda biology, Ayurveda microbiome, Ayurveda pharmacokinesis, Ayurveda pharmacokinetics, and so the students who study Ayurveda Shastra can do research in those areas. So let me conclude. Post-COVID, I hope Ayurveda will attract big ticket investments in some of these areas, and with a shared vision of globalization. It will grow by leaps and bounds, no doubt. We have to remember and take pride in the fact that growth of Ayurveda will augur well not only for the universal healthcare or better health outcomes, but also for agriculture, rural entrepreneurship, employment, public health, economics, and among others. So ours is a very inclusive industry, and our growth will be an inclusive, job-led, and socially uplifting one. So with these words, let me end my talk. And if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Saji, for this wonderful presentation.